Awesome, Ellie. Awesome. Thank you. And thanks for everybody for joining us today, giving us your time and letting us showcase what new things we're whipping up with the OpenAI Agents SDK today alongside AgentKit. Before anything, I'll do some housekeeping notes here as well. First, that when we use these services, in specific, this particular service, we need to give it access, or we need to give it our OpenAI API keys. So that means that anytime that we make a call or anytime that we query the agent, it'll go through the OpenAI SDK and hit the OpenAI API. And that means that you'll be charged, or all those API calls will create some sort of a charge. Obviously, small tokens are not that big of a charge, but it is something to be cognizant of, especially if you, for example, want to let this agent roam freely. As we'll see, you can create an autonomous mode. Just be wary that anytime that you give API access to any agent, any AI, ML, LLM agent, it'll be able to make those in the background queries to an LLM. If you're using a private LLM, for example, OpenAI in this case, Claude with Anthropic or any others, those are paid services. Or if you're using open source, that's not going to charge anything, but you're probably going to be hosting those somewhere, and maybe they're going to be charging you. So I do want to start off with that, and so that everybody is cognizant that obviously, if you've used OpenAI or any other LLM services as an API, you know that each of the calls are very small, and obviously they're very dependent on the token length of the calls. But again, I want everybody to be cognizant that there will be very small charges, but again, they'll be depending on the tokens that you send over. All right, with that being said, I'm going to post a link on the chat for the repo that I'm going to be working on. So that's GitHub/Coinbase/AgentKit. That is a public repo where the AgentKit repo lives in. The Coinbase is public repo. AgentKit is a sub-repo. And I'll switch over now so you can see it. Just one note, we have just merged a change, so you should be able to see it anytime now. We were hoping to have this up beforehand, but I think it'll be up in any moment right now. In any case, you can go. I'm in the AgentKit main repo here. Yes. Oh, okay, I'm sorry about that. I thought we were sharing that. So let me share it again. All right, at this window. Okay, now you should be able to see it, right? Okay, sorry about that, folks. All right, so I'm in the Coinbase GitHub public repo. With that sub repo is AgentKit. This is where all of our AgentKit public information lives. Before showing you anything else, I would encourage anybody who uses this and you see maybe any issues, you can see the issues button up here. You can create any issues. Since this is live, it is changing. It's always getting better, improving, iterating. With your help, just raise an issue. Give us as much information as you can. That'll be super helpful. Or even better, if you do notice an issue and you want to fix it, you can always fork this repo on your own, create the fix, label it as you would. You'll see some descriptions when you create a PR about the things that we like to see, some testing, some, adding some documentation, perhaps to the README, and also perhaps some change log information there so that when it is merged, the repo will be complete and up to date. You can create a pull request and our teams will review it. And if it makes sense to change it, obviously we'll definitely merge it. So this is completely open source. And we definitely do appreciate you taking the time to, again, raise the issues, or if you have the time, even better, create those pull requests so that we can make it better. So in this particular example, we're going to be going through a Python example, and within the Python sublibrary, we can see that we have the Coinbase AgentKit. All right, and sorry, the open source. I'm sorry about that. And it is in the examples. Do appreciate you taking the time to raise the issues, or if you have the time, even better. All right, and you'll be able to see OpenAI Agents SDK CDP chatbot. A mouthful. I love it. A Python example, and we're going to be working with the chatbot sublibrary,
.py,
we can see that we
that
have
folder here.
the Coinbase
And
Agent
so
Kit.
I just wanted to show this briefly to show the issues, pull request capabilities, and what we'll be working with.
It is in
And
the
now I will
examples. Do
switch
appreciate
over.
you
Let me add
taking the
that
time to
window to my IDE. I'm going to be working with, if you're familiar with it, if you're watching this, you probably are familiar with it at this point. It is a fork from VS Code with some different features that have been added so that you can access different LLM um, capabilities, which are very helpful for making your coding a little bit easier, a little bit faster. But you can use VS Code, you can use whatever it is that you want to um, work on. So in the README, as you should anytime you open a new repo, you'll see a couple of examples. We'll get to those in a bit, but just to point out that the requirements here are going to be Python 3.10 or above. We're going to be using UV for package management and tooling. Pretty quickly, this is a moving space. This is a bit new for me as well. A couple months using it. Used to use Poetry before. Old school people like me as well used to use pip. UV is actually written in Rust, and it's extremely fast package manager. I definitely would urge you to take a look at it, see if it works for you, see if you like it. But that's what we're going to be using here. And again, I would encourage you just check the Python version you're running before you run into any issues. If it does meet the requirement, you're going to be good. If you check the UV version, if you have it or not. If you don't, install it. That link's right there as well. And use UV sync here, which is basically just like a pip install requirements.tx or like an npm install if you're running a JavaScript file. So it's just going to take that PyProject toml file, which is where all our dependencies are listed, and it's going to install all of those dependencies. I've already done that, so it's pretty quick. But in any case, if you haven't used UV, just give it a try. You'll see how quickly things install versus installing through pip, for example, or Poetry even. Some other things that we're going to need here, and those links are above. So your CDP API key name and your CDP API key private key. And another note here is you can download currently 2 types of API keys from CDP. I guess you can say the older school, but it still works well, as the ECDSA keys, which is what we're going to be using now. And there's also an EC12259 key, which is the newer one, but we're not going to be using that. We're going to be using the old one. So if you go to CDP to download your keys, just click on the option, and you'll see that there's basically a toggle mode between the ECDSA key and the newer one. Pick the ECDSA keys because that's going to match the API key name and the API private key. You're going to need your OpenAI key as well. Obviously, that's where you can go. You can go into this link right now to download that. If you don't have your OpenAI key, that's the LLM version that we're going to be querying on the back end, again through the OpenAI SDK. And the last 2 are optional. The private key, that is if you don't have if you haven't configured a wallet, if you see it down here, I don't want to click on it because it has my private key. Even though this is a wallet I just created. But below UV lock, you'll see wallet underscore data.txt. That's where the information of the wallet's going to be. You'll see in our code real quickly, if you include your private key in your environment file, it'll grab that private key and create the wallet for you so that you can essentially connect to your wallet with that private key so that you can do all the fun stuff that we're going to be doing, deploying contracts, making transfers, so on and so forth. And the last one, which is also optional because it does default to Basipolia, which is a testnet. This also is pretty important, I would say, if you're getting started, if you want to test it out, please do make sure that you. So again, we're looking at the README. I just went through the installation. I'm not sure when the video cut off, but now we're talking about the environment variables that we're going to include in the
.env local file. Again, you'll see that above chatbot.py. I don't want to click on it because all my API key, all this information for me is on there as well. But as I was saying, one important thing as well is for the network ID, when you're testing it, the first time that you play around with it is to set it to testnet. I would hate for somebody, for example, to include a private key of a wallet that contains funds for the network ID to be set to Ethereum, and for you to write some query that the LLM interprets as sending funds to somewhere, and then, as you all know, send on the blockchains are final, and I would hate it for somebody, to lose funds in that way. So here, we're taking care of all of our import statements, the actions from AgentKit, which are the functions that we're going to pass in as tools, helper function here for importing those tools into AgentKit, loading our EMV, and then these are going to be the two OpenAI SDK, one for creating the agent, instantiating the agent, and one for running the agent. This is going to set it to our wallet. If we have one here, which is here on my project under a UV lock folder, loading the environment variables again, and this is how we initialize our agent. So if we have if we have a wallet, we load it. If we don't have a wallet, we essentially create a new one with our CDP wallet provider. If you don't have one, again, it'll create a new wallet for you. Save that on the wallet_data.txt file with the private key and the network and all that good stuff that you need to actually interact with the blockchain. So again, if we go too quickly, please let me know. And here is where we actually instantiate AgentKit to AgentKit. This is how we configure it. That method is so that we can pass it in the wallet provider, which is the CDP wallet provider, which we imported above. The action providers, these are going to be all the actions that we imported above for AgentKit. Again, this just takes care of the wallet.json, and it writes it to that file. Here we're using that helper function to create tools of all of those AgentKit actions that we imported above. Sets it to a tool variable, and here is when now we switch over to OpenAI's Agent SDK. This is part of their SDK. This is how they create and instantiate agent class. We're going to call it agent here. We're going to give it the name of a CDP agent. We'll see where that comes up shortly. The instructions, which is essentially the system prompt. As I was saying before, I don't know if anybody heard, so I'm not going to harp too much on it. This is really important. This is how you make a probabilistic agent a bit more deterministic. There are ways in prompting it to get it to work in the way that you want it to. OpenAI has a great prompt engineering article on their documentation. I would urge you to go look at it. And this is one of those knobs that you can tweak so that you can get your agent to work the way that you want it to before setting out, letting it out loose in production. So I would recommend, setting your network ID to a testnet, and then tweaking this and see what comes up when you work with it. And when you're happy with it, that's where you can switch over. So we're also going to pass the tools to the class that we use our helper function to create it into the way that the agent class is expecting it, and we're returning the agent here. And so we have the ability to run this in two modes in this particular example. So autonomous mode, which is going to take no input from us, and it's just going to keep going. Every 10 seconds, you can see the thought here. It is, be creative and do something interesting on the blockchain. That's pretty cool. You're going to be able to see how it goes about and does that on its own. And what we're going to be probably diving a bit more into, which is the chat mode, which is going to be, chatting just as you would with OpenAI ChatGPT. The only difference is that it's going to have, the tools that we just gave it access to from AgentKit. And yeah, this is just talks about what it's going to look like when we actually prompt the example to work, or we will run the script. And so I'm going to run here with a UV run chatbot.py. And you can see how it starts. So yeah, two modes as we talked about. When it's chat, again, you can talk to it, query it, and the other is auto. We're going to go backwards because I do want to show the auto mode but I also want to take a little more time to look at the chat mode, which is I think a little bit more interesting. So let's see. Now every 10 seconds, it's going to come up with something creative and do something interesting. So let's see what it does. All right, so creative blockchain executed. I requested USD tokens from the faucet on Basipolio network, and it deployed an ERC20 token called Creative. So with a supply of 1 million tokens, that's pretty cool. So it, I guess it decided it didn't have enough. What's happening here? Not found. Sorry about that, folks. We're having a little technical difficulty. Let me run that again. Hit a bug here. I'm not sure what that was. It looks like it was calling the faucet once again, but it had looked at the faucet. So the let's see what it does now. So it had called the faucet, created. All right, so we can see here. Let's take a look at that. I just ended that on my own, just so it doesn't do anything crazy. And let's look at the ERC20 token that it created. Let me share the screen here because I know it doesn't do it automatically. All right, and we can see here. So it created create a coin with the symbol CC, a total supply of 1 million units. And that is, yep, it just went out on the, in this case, on base Apolia testnet, and it created that, and it did it all on its own. So that's, it's pretty cool. All right. So let's switch over here. So I think you can see my cursor again now. So yeah, if you want to just, I guess, try it out on autonomous mode, just to make sure things are kind of working. If you think it's interesting, if you give it more specific instructions in the systems prompts and give it tools that you want it to work autonomously, I think that's a cool way to look at it. Obviously, some people like deploying autonomous agents, which is cool. So maybe it just like scrapes something again, interval every so often, and it does does certain steps depending on what you tell it to do. I think you can also run an autonomous agent. So this is here, so you can test that out. But now we're going to go more into the prompting. So this is like if I were talking to a model just like ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or anything else like that, it just has access to the tools. So what can we do? Let's ask it to get some tokens from the faucet because I want to do some interactions. I want to make sure that I have some tokens that I can do that. So let's tell it to go get some tokens from the faucet. And I'm being not very specific here. It's going to look at the network that I'm in. It's going to look for the faucet. It's going to make the request, and it's going to deposit it into my wallet here. So you've received ETH from the faucet. You can view the transactions here, and you can see that. Let me see if when I click, we can share that screen. I think it is sharing, so you can see again. Yeah. It made that faucet transaction to the testnet. Again, that did it automatically. Again, it was very, very vague here. Detected my network, detected my wallet, asked for that funds and deposited into my wallet. So that's pretty cool. So let's check out what my balance is. What is my wallet balance? Again, not mentioning any address in particular or anything. It just knows to go look at what I have in my environment variables, what I'm telling it to look at, what network I'm currently set in, and it's going to give me that information. So now let's do something a little bit more interesting. So let's transfer, I don't know, let's say 0.05 ETH to, and I'm just going to go do this live. Hopefully this works. This is my Ethereum address. If you want to send some cash as well, happy to receive that. And let's see, very vague, just, obviously, well, we have the address right now. Maybe we can see that, maybe we can set an address somewhere in a contact book that it has an access to, You can give it, a TXT file or a JSON file, and you have a contact address book. You say, hey, send, point, 0.05 ETH or, send 20 USDC to John Kerry. I don't know why I picked that name, but it looks like the faucet didn't provide enough funds. Would you like to try again? Let's see what's going on here. So make transfer. Again, this is where testing it out. See if I can do it. Testing it out and making sure. So you don't want to cut it loose so far, right? So this is where testing it out. Make sure that things are working the way they do before you ship it to production. The prompt's going to go a long way. See, then ask for the deposit to a network ID based Apolia, for example. If you're not, you provide the wallet. All those things here is what the actual it's taken into consideration. So you currently have 0 in the wallet. Will that be successful? So it gave me the wrong wallet address. So why is that? It's probably looking at some other a wallet address to get that information. It is going out and looking at the scan, but it's not looking at my particular wallet balance. Again, this is something that we can fix. I'm glad that we're looking. I'm glad that we're seeing all these things right now. Again, this is just a demo. This is not meant for production. So let's prompt it again. What is my ETH wallet balance? Let's say base Apolia. What's going on here? All right, so yeah, that does look like it is. So now let's go ahead and transfer 0.000, and let's give it 5 ETH to the centers. So again, the prompts are going to help you be more explicit, more deterministic. As I mentioned before, this is very probabilistic. So when I said, what is my wallet balance? It didn't really understand what I meant by that. It looked at some wallet somewhere, somehow, with the scan, with the tools that it has access to, and it came up with this balance, which is obviously not what I had. Now we did see that we are successful and we created the transaction. There's the Sepolia Ether scan, but let's go take a look and see if I have that. And yes, we do. But hold on. Right. So that worked as well. Again, we can do other things here as well, just with all the AgentKit tools that we have. So, what is the price of BTC? So something, maybe you want to chain all these things together. Maybe you want to find the price. And if the price is at or below a certain level, you want to do something else afterwards. AgentKit will give you the ability to do that very quickly, as you saw, in conjunction with OpenAI SDK. That can deploy an ERC token with a supply of 1 billion or whatever you want to ask it. Or you can see that it can transfer. So it can do things in conjunction, and it can do very quickly all these things, again, with the help of these two SDKs. Now, something here that I wanted to show, which is, I think, pretty cool. Let me see if this is showing up the screen. Yeah, okay. So I'm using my OpenAI API keys to make all these calls, right? If you go to your platform.openai.com, you're going to be seeing something that says on the dashboard, you're going to be seeing the logs. But the really cool part here is you have traces. Now, if you've been working with LLMs in the past, you know that tracing and logging and understanding the issues or debugging or troubleshooting it's a very tough thing to do. There are certain tools out there that offer observability into your LLMs. And off the top of my mind, I think one of the most famous ones is Langsmith, for example. There are other tools, but this does require you to go in, for example, open a Langsmith account, API key, create it, implement it into your code base, do all these sort of things. When OpenAI SDK does actually come pre-built, which is I think that's pretty cool, actually. So you go dashboard traces, and you're going to be able to see all the traces of everything that we've done so far. Pretty cool stuff. It tells you, how long it's taken. This is the entire workflow that our agent just did, for example. You can see, the tokens, because that's going to translate into the cost. You can see the functions that were passed to the agent. You can see the model that it's actually making use of. Here we can see a little bit more the system instructions, which we talked about. And we can see what the user inputted and then the output.
We can see Python action, Pith action provider fetch price feed, and this is the token symbol. So this is the tool that it actually wanted to make a use of. So that's pretty cool. So it decided that of all the tools that we give it access to, this is the one that's going to make use of. So this is the function call here as well. And so we can see that it made that call and that this was the output. And that output then was received again, another call with that information to the OpenAI's model here, GPT-4, and it's going to have all that information again because that context uh, keeps growing longer as the agent does all of its workflow, so that history is maintained through all those calls. So it fetched the price ID, and now it's going to fetch the price because it's doing those two things in separate. So, okay, what do I need first? I need the price ID, and then I need the price. Again, now we have the output. So after all that, you can see it made two function calls, and this is the output that we got. So I think this is actually, again, if you've been working with LLMs for a while and you have been using observability tools, you know that this is kind of a big deal. And the fact that, you always wanted to have it in place, especially if you're developing, production tools. The great thing here is that it's actually built in. So using AgentKit with OpenAI SDK in conjunction offers you this pretty cool capability here. What I wanted to do here is I want to see, I'm not sure when I asked it this, but I want to see what happened and why I got that wrong, for example, wallet provider for me. So, okay, it did not do that here. Let's see. And again, remember CDP agent is listed here. Again, you can name your agents when you instantiated different things. This is what I was talking about before, that you can name it so that you can actually take a look at this when it's working. You can actually also name it different, give it different IDs and things of that nature, so you don't have to go through what I'm doing right now, which is try to find why it wasn't able to do what I wanted it to do when I asked it to make that first transfer. So get balance. But in any case, I'm just kind of doing this live here. Just I wanted to show this because I do think it's really cool that it does come pre-baked into the OpenAI Agents SDK. I would encourage you to go to OpenAI, github.io, OpenAI Agents, for example, Python here. You can also create your own function calling, which again, then you can import into a file such as this or something that you create, or if you want to fork this and make it your own, that's also cool as well. So that your agent can have all the AgentKit functionalities plus whatever you dream up and you want to come up with, so that it works in tandem. And again, you get these added benefits that it has that traces view, which I think again, it may seem simple, but I think once you get to actually working on production ready agents, or those of you that already do, or maybe even know of it, this is a fantastic feature to have on top of AgentKit. So with that, I think, 4:30, I'm going to leave it for some questions if we have some.
So it looks like we had a few questions already, and
Yep.
yeah, I think everybody was having some Discord issues. I guess the first question we
Yeah.
had was, what was the Python version that is necessary?
Okay, yeah. So if you go to the README again, I think I'm still sharing the screen out. After all these issues, I'm still checking. Okay, so for this particular um, example, we're using Python 3.10. So that's what you're going to use. You can, that's why it's very simple to follow along with this particular example. It gives you the Python version. Check the Python version. If not, you can update it. And that's what we're using here.
Awesome. And Google had a question: is it possible to use this agent kit on Replit? If yes, then how?
Um, the thing is, Google, I mean, yes, Google. However,
as you can see, we're importing a lot of things here. So you would have to create several files and then import them from here. So this does make use of, again, Coinbase AgentKit, which you can see is here. And it is using a lot of our um, tools or actions here. So if this was just a standalone file, I think it'd be a little easier to do it. But again, you would just have to include all of these dependency or all of these imports in different files, or just create a really big file and just have it live there as well. But it is possible. It just might take a little bit more work.
Okay. And yeah, if you guys have any questions, please make sure to put them on the chat here. It looks like we're still having some audio issues.
Yeah.
Buildin asked, can you ask it to show its work, like a summary of actions, to see what it outputs?
I mean, I think
Oh, it's
I think what
answered.
you mean is like yeah, I think what you mean is perhaps in the terminal. You definitely can just add some more print statements here to make sure that it's you know, showing its work. Again, what I think is really cool is what I showed again, is the traces. The traces essentially, let's pick one with, it's telling 3 tool calls here, took 10 seconds. It is essentially telling you exactly what it does here. This agent's workflow made a call to OpenAI, gives you the tokens, the time it took, the model it's working with, the instructions that were sent along, the input that the user sent along, and the function call that the model decided to want to make use of. And again, what did that function call take in as arguments? It used this function call, and this was the actual output, so it didn't take out any arguments here. This is just getting the wallet details, and it got all this information again. Then it sent it back to the OpenAI model and said, hey, I got the information you wanted. Here's the output. Okay, now what do you want to do? Okay, the assistant says, okay, well, now I need to test funds to send the balances insufficient. I'll proceed to do that first. So um, all these things, you can see it through here, exactly what it does. I think even better than adding any print or console statements. It's telling you the tokens it's using, it's telling you the time it's using, it's telling you the function calls it's making, the arguments it's taking in, and the function, if it does take any, what the output is. So I think that's why I kind of took a bit of time to show that, because I do think this is one of the strongest selling points of using OpenAI SDK with AgentKit, because it does give you all that information, for free, and also just built in, which is, I think, it's pretty cool.
Okay. Lou21 has a question about how to set up your keys in .env. I don't know if you can you can share that portion, but what
Uh,
exactly do you have to set the CDP API private key to?
Yeah, so if you download, again, if you go to CDP SDK and you download the ECDSA key, because you can choose to download it in 2 different types of essentially signatures. This particular repo is working with ECDSA keys. Um, Again, click download a new key, click on the options because it is defaulted to another type of key. Click ECDSA. When you click OK, you'll be shown the name of the key and the private key. So you grab the information for the private key and you just paste it after the equals to in the .env file. So it's going to require the name and the private key so that it can make calls to our service. That's the other thing that the AgentKit SDK is doing. We require all the calls. Yeah, here we go. We require all of our calls to be authorized or authenticated rather by JWT tokens. Which, if you worked with them, they're not extremely easy to work with. If you want to just get up and running by your own or write the logic on your own, even though we do provide a ton of examples in different languages in our documentation, this abstracts it all away. You just give us your details or the API keys, obviously, because we don't have them. We don't hold your API keys or your details. It creates the signature on your side, on the user end, and then it sends that JWT token encrypted. So we don't have access to your private keys. We can't do anything with that. And we authenticate, and that's how it makes use of AgentKit in the background. So again, using these two SDKs in tandem is extremely powerful, extremely time saving. If I had to write all this out on my own and have the signing, the actions to access, create transfers between two wallets, have traces, talk to an LLM, it would take ages, and this is something that's pretty quick to spin up, as you could see. I'm not sure how many lines of code there are. There's probably 159, 160 lines of code. It's pretty simple, pretty quick, which makes it easier to debug again. That's how you would get it to run. Those answered things with what you all just reviewed. Oh, sorry, yeah. I guess that was an older question.
Yeah, I guess Lou21 was having another question about an error received. Looks like an API error.
Yeah, so you're getting a 401 error, so that is unauthorized error. API message none, correlation none, unhandled none. Just again, I'll ask you to, if you downloaded, I'm not sure if you saw that picture that Ellie sent, shared in the chat. Make sure that you download ECDSA keys, grab the entire, I saw the dash dash begin prefix. Yes, you just copy the entire thing after private key and you paste it in your .env file. Make sure that .env file is in the root of the folder of the project that you are using, and that you're loading it. For example, if you're using for Python, this is how we actually loaded into our files here. So you have to install this library, .env, so pip.env or UV. We've included it in our UV Py project. You download that dependency, and then you load the .env file. That's how this entire code base now has access to our env file, because we just loaded it. So it knows to go to our .env file once we've loaded this with this method, essentially. And that's how you're going to be able to access, whatever it is, your keys, your private keys, that network, anything else that you store in an env file.
Okay. Are there any more questions? Feel free to put those in the chat.
CDP versus Coinbase Advanced, two different uses, but I want to use both. So Coinbase Advanced Trade, I believe is what you're alluding to, is a product under Coinbase Developer Platform. So it is one of our products, as is AgentKit, as is OnRamp. We have other products. So yes, again, you could, as I mentioned, create your own tools. And you, for example, that's why, I was mentioning, if you saw that the price, you want your agent to ask, run it every so often and say, once the price of, Bitcoin reaches a certain level, do sell this or buy that, or whatever it is you want to dream up of. The way that you actually buy and sell programmatically with Coinbase Developer Platform is through our Coinbase Advanced APIs or SDK, if you want to use it. We have Python SDK there too. So you can actually create your own tools to be passed into this agent with our Coinbase Advanced SDK if you wanted to, or just our APIs. And so again, you can quickly see how you can mix and match and create your own agent to fit whatever it needs that you want to, because the idea is for you, so that you can let your imagination kind of run wild. Look for different use cases that you think will be beneficial to you or your users if you want to expose this out in production. But these are two different, Coinbase Advanced Trade is part of Coinbase Developer Platform. So I just wanted to make that clear.
Okay, I think let's give it a second if anybody has any other questions. Otherwise,
Cool, folks.
reach
Yeah,
out.
any other questions? I know this was probably a lot. Not a lot of lines of code, but there's definitely a lot going on in the background, and that's the nature of SDKs. It naturally wants to abstract away, anything that's a little bit more more difficult. Again, JWT signing, We'll have to listen. Oh, I'm sorry. My recording keeps dropping out. Does it, Ellie? I'm sorry. I think it's
No,
that.
you're fine.
Oh, okay. If it does, Isidore, I'm sorry. Maybe again, it seems like it's pretty buggy today. I really apologize about this. Maybe we could do something, a quick recap in a couple of weeks. But let's see. Building. Is anyone developing a books and records keeper for businesses in here using AI agents like this yet? Amazing idea. You know, I've seen over the past couple of weeks probably more interesting AI agent ideas that I've seen in the past. And I've heard of certainly a lot of companies using it in their internal, mostly work. For example, plugging them in into Google Meets or Zoom, having them, go through the transcript and then sending out automatically, notes to the rest of the team or to people who weren't there, or updating a Notion table somehow where it should be. Um, there's just a lot of use cases here that are really cool and that are again, your imagination is the limit here. I'm working on a side project, a system that allows AI agents to use credit card credit. My thinking is that it should be an API and agents can make a call to and rent by the credit. Do you think it could be possible for AgentKit agents to access such a service autonomously? I worry it may be too complex, so would love your opinion. So AgentKit currently, again, I would encourage you to go to our documentation on our repo. Actions get, or actions or function tools get updated all the time. Again, as you could see, we could make transfers in the blockchain. We could make, create smart contracts with ERC20 if we wanted to. We can do all those things. So it can work with AgentKit in that way, but AI agents, if you want to supplement it with a particular tool that you want to write out as well, you can also do that. So if you know of a particular service that allows you, I guess, to access credit programmatically, um, you can write that tool out yourself and have the agent after, for example, you want to, deposit it, it grants you credit through the blockchain and then you want to deposit that to a wallet or whatever you may want to do, you can do that as well. So it is getting a little complicated, but again, the more pieces you add to the puzzle, ultimately, the more complicated it can get. But, you know, the more value you can add to people who are going to use your product. Yes, we're using AI agents. Love this workshop. Just losing audio every time. So I'm sorry, Isadora. Again, seems like it's working for some folks. Seems like it's not working from others. We had that crash. Seems like there's some technical difficulties with Discord at the moment. I do apologize for that. Again, maybe we can do like a refresher in a week, a couple of weeks from now, and maybe the recording, I guess, hopefully will, you know, be a bit better.
Yeah,
That should be right.
yeah, I was gonna
Yeah.
say we're recording this even as we dropped off, so this will be
Okay.
posted in that channel, and it should, work just fine.
Awesome. Awesome. Building with some good feedback for Google. I'm using ECDSA, still getting value error, failed to initialize CDP wallet, API error. Okay. Are you using Lu21N? Are you using that same repo that we are using that we talked about towards the beginning? Yep, just check that out. If you want to, yeah, we're at time now, but if you want, why don't you, can you write in the AgentKit channel, and if you want to, you can mention me with this issue, and then we can take a look at it, or have some other folks in uh, in the channel take a look so we can see what's going on. Awesome, that sounds good. Cool. I think we're at time. It's an hour, Ellie, right? So
Yeah, we're pretty much
again,
at time.
last thing I'll say is if anybody has any questions of this, obviously ping me, Agent Kit's a channel as well, where the engineering team, product team are extremely active here. So if you have any feedback or anything you want to share, any features that you want to recommend, definitely they're going to be super happy to hear about that. Yeah, thank you all for joining.
and
last
we'll
thing.
see you in the next one.
One
Yes,
last
please
thing
go ahead.
before we